The night swells with static and wind, a ceaseless ocean of noise pressing against glass and metal. Inside the control tower, lights hum low, their glow bending in rhythm with the storm. He sits before a wall of screens, every pulse of radar a heartbeat he cannot lose. Then it comes, a voice wrapped in static, faint, trembling, almost human. The call sign is old, one he hasn't heard in years. He leans forward, breath shallow, the name crawling across the airwaves like a ghost returned. Outside, lightning cracks over the runway, white fire cutting through black rain. The transmission repeats. Flight 417 requesting assistance. The problem is, Flight 417 isn't due for another hour. The voice repeats, calm, composed, impossibly familiar. He answers it instinctively, voice steady though his pulse climbs. The reply comes fragmented, but every syllable cuts like memory. The pilot's tone carries a faint tremor, something between fear and déjà vu. He cross-checks the manifest, yet the flight isn't logged. Still, radar insists it's there, a lonely echo sliding across the Atlantic grid. As static surges, the voice calls his name, not control, not tower, but his name. He freezes. Outside, the storm sharpens its claws. Somewhere deep in the circuitry, another voice flickers, overlapping the first. One from the crash he never forgot. The line stabilizes just long enough for coordinates to emerge. He copies them with trembling precision, tracing their path across the radar grid. The flight claims to be descending through turbulence, visibility near zero. He offers guidance, his voice calm, rehearsed, but every command feels hollow, haunted by recognition. The storm builds, and in the roar of static, he hears another layer of sound, a second frequency overlapping the first, whispering his last words from a night 12 years gone. He shakes his head, grounding himself in duty. Maintain heading, he orders. Yet even as he says it, he knows there's nothing alive at those coordinates. The door bursts open behind him. Kari's voice cuts through the hume, a lifeline in a drowning storm. She's been monitoring the weather station, and her report is grim. The storm's heart has shifted, swallowing the corridor the phantom flight claims to occupy. She pleads for him to stand down, to disconnect. But Elias refuses. He insists he's hearing real people, not echoes. Her eyes search his face and find something fractured, something lost. The power flickers again. For a moment, the radar goes dark. When it returns, the dot has moved. Closer. Impossibly close. Flying over coordinates where no plane should be, the tower falls silent but for the storm's relentless whisper. Then, through the hiss, a new sound bleeds in. It's the same voice, clearer now, speaking as if on final approach. Requesting permission to land, Elias's throat tightens. He stares through the glass, scanning the runway below, empty but for rain and lightning. Kari's voice trembles. No visual contact. Yet the instruments tell another story. Altitude dropping. Landing gear deployed. Proximity warning flashing red. The plane is descending, invisible and present, all at once. Elias steps closer to the window, whispering into the storm. Flight 417. Cleared for landing. Somewhere in the darkness, an engine roars back. Rain thickens to fog as the radar pulses faster, frantic and unsteady. The voice from Flight 417 calls again. Steady, procedural, heartbreakingly alive. He watches as the invisible aircraft signal stops just short of the runway threshold, frozen in place. Then the tower shudders. A low vibration rolls through the concrete floor like a heartbeat from the earth. Kari stumbles beside him, eyes wide. Outside, the fog moves wrong, against the wind, curling upward as though pulled by something unseen. Elias calls again, voice shaking. The reply comes softer now, slower. We've landed. Power dies without warning. The tower plunges into shadow. The hum of machinery swallowed by silence. For a breath, only the storm remains. Then emergency lights flare crimson, washing the room in a blood-hued glow. Elias grips the console, whispering coordinates like prayers. Carrie scrambles for backup power, her flashlight slicing through red mist. When the comms flicker alive again, a different voice emerges. Male, distant, drowned by static. Control, this is 417. Passengers unresponsive, need medical. The line breaks. The static carries a scream, brief, wet, human, and then only silence. Static clears into breathing. Heavy, uneven, human. Elias steadies his hand and presses transmit. The voice on the other end is faint but unmistakable. Captain Holt, reported dead in the crash that defined his nightmares. She repeats her coordinates, claiming they're at the tower's edge, unable to see the lights. Kari insists it's impossible. No craft is on radar, no metal detected. Elias orders the ground floodlights activated. As they flare, the fog recoils. And for a second, shapes emerge. A wingtip, a fuselage. Then the lights flicker out again, and the world forgets what it saw. Hours pass like minutes. Kari locates a partial log file, an automated transmission looping on the control server, timestamped from 12 years ago. It's the same distress call, identical to tonight's. Elias listens in silence as his own younger voice echoes through time, calm amid disaster. The room contracts around him. He realizes the tower has become a box of ghosts, replaying fragments of regret. Kari whispers that they should leave, but he's already reaching for the access line to the old crash database. The connection opens itself. A line of text appears. Transmission ongoing. He replays the recording and hears his present self answering in perfect sync. The two voices, past and present, fuse in seamless dialogue, indistinguishable. Time folds inward. Kari backs away, whispering his name, but Elias doesn't turn. The system's clock spins backward, digits blurring. Through the open frequency, the pilot speaks one last phrase. We never stopped falling. The storm resumes, violent and alive. Lightning tears the sky as both transmissions merge into one endless signal. Elias stares at the console, eyes hollow, as his voice continues to speak, long after his lips have gone still. The rain has slowed, but silence feels heavier than thunder. Elias lifts his eyes from the console and sees her, just beyond the glass, standing on the drenched tarmac. The faint outline of a pilot's uniform clings to her frame, soaked through, unmoving. He blinks. She vanishes. Kari's voice trembles, calling his name, but he can't look away. The headset crackles again. Control! I can see you. His blood runs cold. He steps toward the window, the storm light crawling across his face. Outside, footprints appear in the flooded runway, one by one, approaching the tower door. The knock comes like thunder against the steel door. Once, then again, then silence. Kari pleads to ignore it, but Elias moves, drawn by duty or madness. The emergency lights flicker with each step. When he reaches the door, water seeps in beneath it, thick and dark. He presses his palm to the metal, freezing cold, and feels a pulse from the other side. The voice returns, soft as breath. Open, please. We're still out here. His hand trembles. Kari grabs his arm, tears in her eyes. Outside, something heavy drags across the walkway. The storm holds its breath. He opens the comms again. The frequency hisses, alive, whispering in overlapping voices. Crew reports, control commands, distant screams, all folding over one another. Kari, covers her ears, but Elias listens. Within the chaos, he hears his own voice repeating orders from years ago. Merging with Holtz. Merging with the storm. The air thickens. Condensation crawls down the walls like sweat. Lightning flares, and for a heartbeat, the air inside the tower looks filled with mist. Faces shifting within it. Then one of them turns toward him and smiles. The voice says, "You never answered, Elias." The tower trembles as if the storm has found its heart. The frequency spikes, filling the air with an unbearable drone. Carrie screams that the structure won't hold. Elias barely hears her. He's already tuning the channel to a forbidden band, the one reserved for crash site data recovery. The voice answers instantly. "Welcome back, Control." He sees Hold's reflection in every surface now, standing closer, her lips moving in silence. Then the floor shudders and alarms blare. The radar shows an aircraft descending directly onto the tower's position, but it isn't coming from the sky. It's rising from the sea. As the tower groans under pressure, Elias steadies his breath. He takes the microphone, voice calm, almost reverent. "Flight 417, he says. "You are clear for return." Carrie sobs, begging him to stop, but he smiles faintly. Peaceful, resigned. The voice replies, "Copy that. Final approach." The radar shows the signal merging with the tower itself, the two becoming one pulsing light. Elias whispers, "Welcome home," and closes his eyes. A blinding flash consumes everything. Light, thunder, static. When silence returns, the storm has gone. The tower stands quiet, empty, and cold. The radio glows faintly, repeating one final line. Transmission complete. The morning breaks gray and hollow. The sea lies calm, betraying nothing of the storm that devoured the night. Two black sedans wind along the coastal road toward the airfield, tires slicing through puddles that still ripple as if remembering. Investigators step from the vehicles, briefcases in hand, silence in their eyes. The tower looms above, its windows fractured, its lights still flickering in slow, exhausted rhythm. Inside, no voices remain, just the faint, continuous hum of static echoing through the speakers, a ghost of a signal, looping softly beneath the sound of rain. Inside, the air is stale with ozone and dampness. The investigators tread carefully through the wreckage of machines. One console still blinks, pulsing in slow intervals. Alive, though no power should remain. They find the headset lying on the desk, microphone bent, still warm. No sign of struggle, Santa mutters. Arnar stares at the radar, its screen cracked but faintly glowing. "Replay it," he says. She hesitates. When the audio begins, a voice fills the room. Steady, composed, unmistakable. Elias Ward, giving landing clearance to a flight that shouldn't exist. Outside, thunder rolls once, then fades forever. Hours later, the investigation deepens. Santa unearths a corrupted archive. Voice logs dated the night of the original Flight 417 disaster. Every detail matches. The timestamp, the coordinates, the voices. Arnar listens in silence, jaw tightening. But one file differs. Recorded last night, identical in every sound except for one anomaly. A faint whisper layered beneath. It repeats a single word. Forgiven. When played backward, the whisper forms a complete sentence. "We made it home." Arnar looks to the window. Outside, the fog has returned, swirling across the tarmac as though drawn by the sound. Kari sits in the hospital's observation room, eyes hollow but steady. She tells them what she saw. The transmissions, the voices, the impossible light. The investigators exchange glances, her story bordering on mad. But when she mentions the final phrase, "Welcome home," the room chills. Arnar leans forward, asking what she believes happened. She pauses, staring past them toward the window, where rain begins to fall again. "He finished what he started," she whispers. "He brought them in." For a long moment, no one speaks. The tape recorder keeps turning, capturing silence that feels alive. Late that night, Arnar reviews the last file alone. The tower is empty again, moonlight pooling on the floor. He listens, the hum of static almost soothing. Then faintly, he hears another sound beneath it. Footsteps, a chair creaking, a man's breath. "Control," says a calm voice. "Do you read?" Arnar leans closer. "Flight 417. Clear to return." He freezes. The date on the recording updates itself. Live transmission 017. From somewhere deep within the tower, the lights flicker on, one by one. The signal hums louder, stronger, alive. Arnar lifts his eyes toward the window and whispers back, "Cleared for landing." Midnight again. The storm returns as if summoned by memory. In the tower's darkness, machines that were shut down begin to hum. The radar flickers. Screens, waking one by one. Across the coast, villagers report hearing voices carried on the wind, radio chatter that shouldn't exist. Kari wakes from uneasy sleep to the sound of static leaking through her hospital intercom. The voice is unmistakable. Elias, calm and patient. All stations prepare for approach. The sky above Keflavik flashes once, not with lightning, but with something colder, like the shimmer of steel breaking through clouds. The fog parts above the ocean like a wound opening. Through it, the form of Flight 417 descends, its engines silent, landing gear extended, lights flickering with each passing heartbeat. Arnar races toward the airfield in his car, headlights cutting through rain. Over the radio, Elias's voice guides the descent, repeating vectors no modern tower would use. The wind howls like static through the trees, and for the first time Arnar understands, this flight isn't returning to land, it's returning to finish what began. As the ghostly jet nears the runway, the sea below glows faintly, reflecting stars that aren't there. As Arnar bursts into the tower, the lights surge to life. The air feels electric, dense with static. The consoles operate themselves, levers shifting, dials turning. Elias's final transmission, repeating in perfect rhythm. Kari appears in the doorway, drawn by a force she doesn't fight. Her eyes widen as she sees the radar pulsing not one, but two signals. Flight 417. And something else. The tower itself. Outside, the runway lights ignite in a perfect line, though no one's at the controls. The comm speaker hisses, and Elias's voice whispers, "Final approach confirmed." The plane touches down in silence, wheels stirring no spray, engines whispering no sound. Kari and Arnar watch, transfixed, as the luminous craft rolls to a stop before the tower. The cabin windows glow with soft light, shadows moving behind them. Then the cockpit door opens. Elias steps out. Calm, ageless, eyes gentle in the storm's fading glow. "You can let them rest now," he says, voice steady as truth. Kari's breath catches. Arnar's eyes widen. The aircraft flickers once, twice, and then collapses into mist, its light scattering like dust in dawn's first breeze. Elias fades with it, smiling. By sunrise, the airfield is still again. The tower stands whole, its power restored, its systems silent. Investigators will find no trace of the plane, no damage to the runway, only one anomaly. A new voice added to the system's archive. Elias Ward's final message, time-stamped at dawn. To anyone listening, it says, "Your skies are safe." The tape ends with soft static, then a sound like breathing, steady, calm, eternal. Arnar stands outside, the rising sun reflected in the tower glass. The world looks unchanged, yet somehow it feels forgiven. Weeks after the storm, a research vessel hovers over coordinates long erased from flight charts. The ocean is glass calm, but the sonar sings with movement. Metallic shapes rise from the dark, wreckage that shouldn't still exist. Arnar watches the monitors, pulse quickening as the diverse cameras descend through turquoise gloom. Then, through a veil of drifting silt, letters appear on a corroded fuselage. Flight 417. Every light on the deck dims, as if the sea itself is listening. A faint radio hum bleeds through the ship's comms. Elias's voice again, echoing through the water, whispering, "All souls accounted for." The divers report interference, every frequency alive with overlapping transmissions. Snippets of cockpit dialogue, passenger chatter, even laughter, carried through salt and time. Arnar grips the comm headset, listening. Amid the static, Elias speaks, not frantic, but serene, describing coordinates that lead deeper than the known trench. "Below," he says, "we're waiting." The captain orders retrieval to cease, but the sea answers first. A surge rises from the depths, rocking the vessel. The ocean hums like a living transmitter. Arnar closes his eyes, whispering back, "We hear you." At dawn, the divers surface clutching a corroded flight recorder. Its casing bears a single scratch that looks like handwriting. Back aboard, Santa connects the device. It hums once, then plays unprompted. The audio is crystalline. Elias's calm instruction guiding Flight 417 through final descent, followed by Captain Holt's steady reply. But the final minute is new. Impact avoided. Holt says softly, "Passengers safe." Arnar feels the deck tilt beneath him, unsure if it's the sea or truth shifting. The recorder ends with Elias's voice, gentle, content, transmission complete. Arnar plays the recording again and hears something beneath. The sound of breathing. Steady, measured. He isolates the track. It isn't from the cockpit. It's from the tower, captured years later. Elias's confession interlaces with Holt's final log, proving the impossible, both transmitted together. Across 12 years of silence, Arnar steps to the railing, eyes on the horizon. The ocean glows faintly where the wreck rests, as if lit from within. The wind carries a voice, 2 words, almost tender. "Thank you." For once, Arnar doesn't analyze. He simply listens. Night falls. The crew rests, but Arnar remains on deck, the recorder beside him. He turns the volume low and closes his eyes. Through the hum of waves, he hears the faint pulse of a frequency not meant for ears. Soft, constant, like a heartbeat. Somewhere below, metal sleeps and souls are still. The radio light blinks once every few seconds, steady as breath. Arnar whispers into the receiver, "Safe journey, control." Static answers warm and human. The sea settles. The story ends not with silence, but with a signal that never needs to be heard again. Months later, the restored tower stands as a memorial. Tourists move through its hushed corridors, unaware of how the walls once shook with voices. A single console remains active, its radar light blinking in perfect rhythm with the heartbeat of the sea outside. Carrie visits often, leaving her security badge beside the transmitter. She no longer fears the static. She listens to it like a hymn. Every few minutes, the system emits a soft pulse. Elias's last signal, preserved in endless loop. To strangers, it's only background noise. To her, it's proof that forgiveness can live inside a machine. Arnar sits in a studio, recording the official case debrief. He recounts only verifiable facts. Radar anomalies, audio interference, recovered wreckage. Yet between sentences he pauses, eyes unfocused, listening to something just beyond the microphones. When the interviewer asks what he believes happened, he simply says, "Communication? That's all any of us ever try to keep alive." The tape keeps running after his words end. For 30 seconds, only silence. Then a faint voice, layered beneath the hiss. "Control confirmed." Arnar smiles without knowing why. Evening along the cliffs. Carrie walks where waves break against basalt, carrying a small radio, no bigger than her hand. The broadcast frequency is empty now, yet she swears she hears patterns in the static. Gentle, rhythmic, like breathing. She places the radio on a rock and lets the tide wash around it. "Thank you," she whispers. The wind carries the words across the surf. For a heartbeat, the static sharpens into a single tone. Clear, resonant, human, and then fades with the wind, leaving only the sound of water meeting stone. Somewhere above the North Atlantic, satellites record an unexplained transmission repeating every 12 hours. 5 seconds of static, followed by 3 soft words. Engineers can't trace the source. It moves like weather. Airlines have begun calling it the ward frequency. No interference, no danger, just a pulse that reminds the sky it's being watched. Pilots claim they hear it on quiet nights. A man's calm voice saying, "You're clear." And maybe that's all it ever was. One soul ensuring no one flies alone. The story ends where it began, inside the quiet hum of an empty tower. Morning light spills across the console. No one sits at the desk, yet the radio clicks once, automatically adjusting its dial. The speaker breathes, then releases one final line. All flights accounted for. The system powers down, the hum fading into still air. Outside, gulls rise in bright arcs over the sea. The camera drifts upward through the glass dome, climbing into a sky washed clean, the sound of wind merging with faint static, until both become the same eternal whisper.